It is one of the strangest transformations of our time. Germany, the nation once envied for its discipline, stability, and prosperity, now finds itself tearing apart at the seams. The same country that rebuilt from the rubble of 1945 into an industrial titan has in recent years managed to dismantle its own foundations, not with bombs or tanks, but with policies dressed up as compassion. In 2015, Angela Merkel stood before the cameras and told the world, "We're schaffen das. We can manage this." What followed was the largest uncontrolled wave of migration in modern European history. Nearly a decade later, Germany is not managing anything. It is struggling with rising crime, cultural division, and a youth population that is increasingly disillusioned. This is not progress. This is decline, dressed up as virtue. And the German people who never voted for this experiment are the ones paying the price. Germany, the land of BMW, Mercedes, and beer gardens. Remember that? Now it's the land of migrant camps, knife crime, and politicians who pretend everything is fine. This country once stood for order and strength. Today it stands for weakness and denial. In 2015, Merkel threw open the gates and said, "Come one, come all." Millions poured in. And now? Ask the German people if they feel safer. Ask the women of Cologne. Ask the Jews of Berlin. Ask the families who can't walk their own streets at night. The government will tell you it's about compassion. But compassion doesn't look like rising crime, collapsing trust, and protests filled with extremist slogans. Compassion doesn't look like police losing control of neighborhoods. The truth is simple. Germany isn't safer, richer, or stronger. It's becoming poorer, divided, and frightened. And it's all thanks to leaders who chose ideology over reality. The immigration surge Germany has welcomed more than 1 million migrants since the refugee crisis of 2015 to 2016. Every year since, hundreds of thousands more have arrived. In 2023 alone, roughly 350,000 new immigrants were given residency, pushing the foreign-born population to record highs. But by 2025, Germany is facing what many now call its greatest crisis. Illegal immigration. The government has intensified its crackdown. Tighter border controls, more police on the front lines, and asylum applications increasingly rejected. Critics say this undermines international asylum law. Supporters argue it is long overdue to protect national security. As Germany's new chancellor, Friedrich Merz, declared,
"Germany will not tolerate uncontrolled migration any longer. Security at our borders is national survival."
Historical context. Germany's relationship with immigration is complicated. After World War II, with millions displaced and the economy in ruins, West Germany invited guest workers from Italy, Spain, Greece, Yugoslavia, and later Turkey. These workers became the backbone of the so-called Wirtschaftswunder, the German economic miracle. They built the factories, staffed the hospitals, and added new cultural colors to German society. Today, migrants account for nearly 18% of the population. For decades, this was seen as a success story. Immigration was linked to growth, diversity, and openness. But the tone shifted dramatically after the refugee crisis of 2015. What was once celebrated as humanitarian compassion soon became viewed as a political liability. The crime debate. By 2023, Germany reported a 33% rise in illegal border crossings, mostly from Syria, Turkey, and Afghanistan. That same year, police recorded a 5.5% increase in crime. And here's the detail critics seize upon. Of all suspects, 41% were foreign nationals, a 17.8% rise. asylum seekers, who make up just 2.5% of the population, accounted for over 13% of criminal suspects in 2021. These are not numbers from far-right pamphlets. These come from Germany's federal police and interior ministry. The public has noticed, in 2016, only 23% of Germans said they felt unsafe in public spaces. By 2024, that number had nearly doubled to 40%. According to one government security report, 48% of citizens now believe crime has risen because of immigration. Public backlash. The backlash has been fierce. Far-right parties like the AfD, Alternative for Deutschland, have surged in popularity, capitalizing on public fears. Meanwhile, attacks on migrants have also risen. In Berlin alone, there were 77 reported assaults on asylum seekers in 2024, more than double the number in 2023. So Germany faces a paradox: a migrant population that has contributed for decades to its economy, but also a public that increasingly associates mass migration with insecurity, crime, and cultural division.
The European trend Germany is not alone. Across Europe, governments are hardening their stance. Austria, Hungary, and Poland have embraced border fences and strict asylum laws. France has witnessed violent protests in Paris and Lyon over migrant integration and religious tensions. In Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has faced fierce debate over asylum policy after mass protests in Sydney and Melbourne sparked by Middle Eastern conflicts spilling into local politics. The message is clear. Immigration is no longer just an economic or humanitarian issue. It has become a question of identity, sovereignty, and survival. Germany's new approach. In May 2025, Interior Minister Alexander De Windt scrapped the 2015 directive that had allowed undocumented third country nationals to enter. He announced,
"We will not close our borders entirely, but we will control them far more tightly. Those without documents will be refused entry. Vulnerable groups, women, children, the sick, will still be protected. But the days of open borders are over."
3,000 additional federal police officers have been deployed. Mobile border units have been doubled, and the rejection rate for asylum seekers has spiked. Public opinion? A YouGov poll shows 75% of Germans support De Windt's measures. Half of them fully support it. Only 16% opposed. The bigger question. But will it work? Will stricter borders solve Germany's crisis, or merely paper over deeper cultural and social divides? Douglas Murray once wrote, "Europe is committing suicide," or at least its leaders have decided to commit suicide. Whether the people decide to go along with this is, of course, another matter. This isn't just about economics. It's about whether Germany, and Europe more broadly, can remain Europe in any meaningful cultural sense, while absorbing millions from radically different religious and social backgrounds. The religious dimension. Nowhere is this clearer than in the debate over Islam. Pro-Palestinian protests in Berlin and Frankfurt have spilled into open hostility toward Jews, creating echoes of a past Germany vowed never to repeat. The deportation of 4 foreigners for participating in such protests marks a turning point. For many Germans, this is no longer about asylum. It is about preserving the very fabric of German society. In France, President Emmanuel Macron has admitted that the country faces a crisis of authority in controlling radical Islam, after years of violent protests and riots linked to migrant communities. In Australia, the government has banned certain pro-Hamas demonstrations after Jewish communities said they no longer feel safe in Sydney. These are not isolated issues. They are part of a wider Western struggle. How to reconcile humanitarian ideals with cultural survival. Conclusion. So where does Germany stand in 2025? A nation once defined by openness is now fortifying its borders. A people once willing to extend compassion now increasingly demands security. And a government once praised for humanitarian leadership is now accused of betraying asylum law. Whether Germany's new policies succeed or fail, one thing is clear. Europe's immigration debate is no longer about numbers. It is about identity, sovereignty, and the survival of a civilization. As Chancellor Mach put it bluntly,
without secure borders, there is no secure Germany. And without a secure Germany, there is no Europe.
this is not progress. This is decline, dressed up as virtue. And the German people, who never voted for this experiment, are the ones paying the price. Follow Global Compass for more hard truths.